Hey YouTube, coming at you in this video. What we're going to do is we're just going to look at the new Pokemon, the Pokemon with new moves and how they do just in the Great League. We'll do Ultra League and Master League in another video. And some of these moves you can't actually put in right now because the moves, not only are they new moves for these Pokemon, but these moves also got buffs. So the buffs won't be taken into consideration now. So what we're going to do in this video is look at the Great League Pokemon that have new moves that will not get buffed or nerfed in any way. So that is what we're going to do in this video. So it's going to start with Skeldurge. And I said right off the bat, like, why would you run Skeldurge with Hex when Incinerate is one of the best charge, like, fast moves in the game with the energy per turn and the damage per turn? And what someone in the comments says is, you know, this thing also has Blast Burn now. So you run Hex, you run double nuke, Blast Burn, Shadow Ball. So that's what I did. I put in 3 into the sim here. Let me just make sure that's okay. I put 3 in here, and I put in, the first one is just your Skeldurge. This is just Great League. Skeldurge with Incinerate, Torch Song, and Shadow Ball. The second one being Skeldurge with Hex, Torch Song, and Shadow Ball. And the third one being your double nuke, Hex, Blast Burn, Shadow Ball. And in the ending, you have one more win with the Hex and Torch Song, and more losses, couple more losses with the Hex and Blast Burn and Shadow Ball. And this makes sense, again, with what we'll do with all these videos is kind of look at like what you pick up, what you lost, and the reasons that will happen. So you pick up with Hex and the same moves that you pick up Annihilate, Corsola, Primeape, and Skeldurge, and you lose Digger's Speed, Jump Off, Mana Buzz. And again, should not be surprising off first look while you're picking up some of these and losing some of the others, where Annihilate is weak to Ghost, Corsola is weak to Ghost, Skeldurge is weak to Ghost, as opposed to being resisted on the fire. So you're picking up a bunch of these where the Hex is not only doing more damage, but the Hex now you're getting to Shadow Balls too quicker. That combo there is picking them up. But you lose Digger's Beam, Mana Buzz, Jump Off. Again, Jump Off being a weak to fire, Digger's Beam being a normal typing, Mana Buzz being a dark. Now with the Hex fast move, you lose more. In theory, the fact that not much changes makes sense, because with the Incinerate damage that you got, you were just able to go kind of Incinerate and one charge move for the most part. It was just like Incinerate, Shadow Ball, pretty much done. Now, yes, Hex is a fast charging move, but what that means is you are not doing much damage, and a Shadow Ball and even a Blast Burn is probably not going to one-shot a lot of things. It'll put them low for sure, but it probably won't one-shot. So in a lot of situations, you may need 2. So it actually may just offset each other, that if you do Incinerate one move, it's probably going to be about the same as doing 2 charge moves with the Hex fast move. So that's why I don't think you're going to see a lot of change in Skeldurge. Again, that is the one shield. We'll look at it in the 0s and 2s just to see if anything changes. In the 0s, you lose a lot more. Actually, you even out in the back one here. So way better average with the double nuke in the 0s, which I guess kind of makes sense. But again, it's kind of, you get more consistency, because I think it's probably some Torch Song. No, I guess it doesn't matter, Torch Song versus in the 0s. In the 2s, it will matter. I think Incinerate maybe. Incinerate, you may just be able to ramp up. Yeah. With Incinerate, Torch Song, you're just able to ramp up in the 2 shields. So, you know, maybe it has more play in the 0s if you run it double nuke, but I think just having Incinerate is one of the best fast moves in the game. I think it just makes it tough to take that off, but it may this is one of those you might need to like play to find out, and I'll probably play just to see how it plays. But let's go into some that I'm excited for, starting with Beedrill. So Beedrill right now has Poison Jab. It was, if you have played since the early seasons of GBL, it was a very, very, very meta Pokemon. One of the best answers to a Zoomerl at the time. Unfortunately, just the Poison Jab X is a Juron combo, and its sort of glassiness does not translate well. So Shadow Beedrill was always sort of better. So I put in regular Beedrill with Poison Jab, and the regular Beedrill with Poison Sting, and same thing, Shadow with Poison Jab, Shadow with Poison Sting. And in the ending here, kind of evenish in the Poison Jab versus Poison Sting in the non-Shadow, and you do pick up 4 more in the Shadow with the best average, but overall still a losing record overall. And yeah, so I guess the only sort of problem with Beedrill is kind of a tough one, just the way that the meta has evolved, because, you know, it was okay in the first sort of non-excel. So even a zoom roll was like a non-excel. It was like a level 38, 40 zoom roll where you had super effective poison jab. So that poison jab Joran combo KO'd faster. A lot of times you had like the X Scissor Joran combo was good enough to put out a bunch of steals and stuff. And again, that was all non-stab, sorry, non-XL Pokemon. Now with the XL Pokemon, the problem with Beedrill is even with poison jabs and X Scissors and Jorans, you're still going to need 2 moves. So now to take off your hard-hitting damage in poison jab, you get a fast-charging poison sting, you're now going to need 3 moves, right? And now when you take that back on the shadow, that's why the shadow is worse, because you're now you're probably still going to need 2 moves for the shadow Beedrill with poison jab, and you're still maybe going to need 3 moves. Maybe it's down to 2 moves with poison sting. That's maybe why it's better, but for the most part, it just does not have the bulk, and your move set is not hard hitting enough for what you are to last. So again, Joran X Scissor, fine moves, but they output like 70 to 80 damage with stab here. So when you're doing that against Pokemon that can take 2, maybe 3, it doesn't hold you up well when you're otherwise your stat product is pretty bad, 126, 106, 132. So you're more attack heavy, but you're not even a glass cannon. Like you want those glass cannons to be 135, 140. So this kind of just fails in like a weird mid attack with like really low defense and okay stamina, but pretty low overall. So unfortunately, I think as much as I was excited about this, I don't think it will have as much play. We'll check a look at the 0s and 2s just to see. In the 0s, okay, in the 0s you pick up more with Poison Sting. I guess that sort of makes sense for the exact logic that I just said. With the poison jabs and drill runs, you were still going to need 2 moves. But now maybe with this with the Shadow Poison Sting, maybe you can get by in 2 moves here in the 0s. And so you just be able to outspam potentially. And then in the 2 shield here, yeah, unfortunately your lack of bulk is just kind of showing through there. You're just going to be taken out too quickly, in my opinion, in a lot of these scenarios. So that is Beedrill. The other one's Nitqueen. Nitqueen, again, for history time here, this will be a longer video just to give you the history of why these Pokemon worked and what happens to them and what these new moves are trying to do. Nitqueen had Poison Jab, and it was very, very dominant because the Shadow Nitqueen, with the hard-hitting Poison Jab, you lower your opponent's defense pretty quickly with Poison Fang, and then you just comboed that, and it was insane. And you had Earth Power for Steel coverage. So what happened was they nerfed Poison Fang, so it took longer to get to, so you weren't lowering your opponent's defense early enough for those Poison Jabs to add up. Now it's getting Poison Sting, and you do pick up 2 wins in the non-Shadow and 3 wins in the Shadow, but the Shadow seems to be doing worse. And I think it comes down to, what are you picking up? You're picking up Annihilate, Azumarill, Clodslayer, Drapion, and Skeldirge in the non-Shadow, but losing Mandibuzz, Sableye, and Sandslash. Losing obviously a lot more in the Shadow version. So I'm trying to think of the rationale why you'd pick up 2 for Poison Sting. The only reason I could see you picking up 2 for Poison Sting is that, I'm wondering how many of these are bait dependent, and Skeldirge is a prime example of that you're probably bait dependent, but let's take a look here. Whether you can just go straight Earth Power or whether you can... Why is it bite? What is happening here? I don't know why it came up bite Skeld. It's not even what I clicked on. PV Poke is going crazy. I said Poison Sting. Okay, it's just transferring over weird. Poison Sting with Earth Power and Poison Fang. So I'm guessing this is bait dependent. Yeah, so you're baiting a Poison Fang and then landing an Earth Power. So I'm guessing if you got rid of this and just kept Poison Sting, you lose to Skeldirge. So it's bait dependent. Yeah, so it's still one of those where you probably need to bait Poison Fang in some of these matchups and land an Earth Power. But if you can do that at a very quick pace, charge to the Earth Power pretty quickly, bait a Poison Fang, lower their defense, and then land a hard-hitting Earth Power, that could be a pretty nice combo there. Did I already do this? So in the zeros, the Poison Jab Shadow Nitqueen is still dominant because the poison jabs will add up and you probably one shot with the earth power. Whereas in the 2s, it probably just does not have the bulk to sustain. Yeah, and that's why the poison. Interesting in the 2s though. The Shadow Nitqueen in the 2s with Poison Sting to the tune of 27 and 18 and a 524 average. Picking up Annihilate, Drapion, Feraligatr, Ferret, Golisopod, Sandslash, Skeledirge, and Talonflame. I do wonder again how many of those are bait dependent, and the problem with Poison Fang is an okay move, but the main strength is that it lowers your opponent's defense. So to lower your defense, just do a Poison Sting, which doesn't do a ton of damage, is not as useful. But if you can get to those Poison Fangs faster and lower your opponent's defense and then land an Earth Power from a Shadow, that could be very scary. So could be a kind of interesting one to use. I put in Nitqueen. It did not have any play. Tentacruel, I put in the normal one with Acid Spray and Scald, Poison Jab. Poison Sting with Blizzard and Scald, so your Water Ice, and then your Sludge Wave and Scald with Poison Sting. You do pick up wins. That does not surprise me. Your average doesn't increase as much, which is kind of surprising. Not surprising that you pick up wins. Tentacruel has like okay bulk, and Blizzard and Scald or Scald and Sludge Wave are both like such hard hitting moves. So if you're able to like land 2 super hard hitting moves, and live some of your opponent's moves, it's not surprising that you're picking up some wins. I'm actually surprised it only picks up a couple wins. But I guess it's one of those things where, Poison Jab and Scald can probably take out some Pokemon, whereas you're going to need 2 of these Sludge Wave Scalds, but you get some pretty quick. So I think just for consistency, average is higher here on the consistency. I'm not surprised there. I'm surprised it's not a little higher because I think you get more consistency with being able to just go straight like Scald or straight Sludge Wave, as opposed to having to like sometimes bait an Acid Spray and then Poison Jab down, or bait an Acid Spray and then land a Scald sort of thing. So again, this is one we'll maybe have to test out. Toxic Croak, getting Poison Sting to become faster charging, and very cool. It does pick up a lot more wins with the Poison Sting and then 2 nukes. So you are in Poison Sting, super fast to the Dynamic Punch and Shadow Ball. Again, one of the only problems is, let me actually just try the Shadow Toxic Croak, because I'm wondering if the Poison Sting with double nukes can start one-shotting things. So you have Shadow Ball, Dynamic Punch on the Shadow with double nukes. And yet, yeah, it does, 20 and 25. And that makes sense because Toxic Croak is so attack heavy that if you can just start launching nukes, you probably can like one-shot some things with these moves. It's probably gonna play better in the zeros. Zeros, you get to the moves very quickly. So 20 and 25 with a 525 record. So because Poison Sting is such a fast charging move, and Dynamic Punch and Shadow Ball are such hard hitting moves, even in your sort of losses, you're probably gonna get a move off, and while it will not take out, it will probably do a significant amount of damage. So Toxic Croak in the zeros looks good. Probably 2, it's too glassy. Although you spam pretty quickly, yeah, but 2 too glassy. Where I think this Pokemon is going to dominate is with shield advantage. So in the 0-1s, 0-1s with Poison Sting, significant increase, 38 and 7 or 37 and 7. And in the 1-2, not as good, but still significant, 35 and 10, 33 and 12. And that should not surprise you, right? You got a glassy Pokemon that is now spamming sort of really, really hard hitting moves. So if you have that shield advantage and you're just launching either Shadow or non-Shadow, Dynamic Punch and Shadow Balls, those are really going to add up on a lot of Pokemon in this meta. So Toxic Croak plus 2 very, very, very bulky Pokemon looks like it will have some play in the Great League this next season. Scolipede I put on, went from Poison Jab to Poison Sting, picks up 1 win, terrible average, so it's not much to deal with there. And then Raichu, I put in a Raichu, I'm like, oh yeah, this thing has Volt Switch and Surf, and I put it in, I'm like, why did you lose 11? Apparently because it has Thunder Shock as one of its fast moves. Is this true? Did PvPoke make a mistake here? It is 31 and 14 and 20 and 25 with that. So let's go to Celio. I mentioned that it's going to improve because it just goes from Water Pulse to Surf. So you pick up 3, but unfortunately not enough to do much here, because it just Body Slam nerf has really hurt this Pokemon. Aggron I put in. The problem with Aggron, so I put it in. It does pick up like 2, but Metal Sound has not been buffed yet. So this Pokemon, and I think other Pokemon, are not as good. Palmont here, this is the one, and I already kind of mentioned it when I did my analysis for the community day, saying this thing does not need Brick Break, it needs Thunder Shock, and they gave it Thunder Shock, and look at that. It goes from 10 and 35 to 27 and 18 with Brick Break and Wild Charge, and 24-21 with Double Nuke, Close Combat, Wild Charge. So still seems like you kind of need to bait Brick Break here in some matchups. Like, that is a significantly higher average of 507 versus 455. 3 more wins, but the average is way higher. So again, this is 100% going to be bait dependent. Again, TingTong, you're probably just going to need to, man, P-Poke's being weird, but you probably need to bait the Brick Break and land that. Now, I think this is probably going to play very similar to what I just mentioned in Toxicroak. So let's just look at the 0s and the 2s, and then we'll look at shield advantage. So in the 0s, obviously with the nukes, 26-19, best average here, being able to just close combat wild charge stuff. Probably in the 2s, not enough power, and then when you close combat stuff and lower your defense, not surprising that that one's the worst, because you cannot play, like, this is why you can't just look at the sims like this. Oh, in the 2 shield, this thing is garbage with double nukes. You would never play double nukes in the 2 shield, because you close combat or wild charge, you're going to lower your defense and then just get destroyed on an already glassy Pokemon. So you don't play like that. You play like nuke and bail into bulky Pokemon, stuff like that, or grab shields with other Pokemon and use this as a closer. So that's why I think it'll work well in the 1-0 and 2v1 shield scenario. Yeah, so 36 and 38 and 7 in the 1v2, and the 2v1 32 and 12, or 37 and 8 with Brick Break. Again, being able to sort of bait there and lower their defense before you start nuking there. But another electric Pokemon back on the mix here. Galarian Moltres, I put in two birds. I put in Zapdos here too. Put in Galarian Moltres first. So the first one I did with your normal moveset, Ancient Power, Brave Bird. And then I put in double flying, Fly Brave Bird, and then I put in Payback and Fly to see if there was any combo that worked. Excuse me. And a little bit of improvement with Fly Brave Bird, double flying. Ancient Power is just such a bad move. It gives you some coverage on stuff like some like rock type Pokemon where Brave Bird is resisted and Flying is resisted. Rock you can hit at least neutral with other rock. But the Fly Brave Bird, being able to get to a good move and hit for neutral in a lot of situations here, and then or go for the nuke, makes this thing a little more valuable. But the better average here is actually Fly Payback, because you'll have the coverage of Payback, but you'll have a hard hitting flying type move without lowering your defense. So being able to do hard hitting sucker punches with a really hard hitting stab Payback, or a good fly. Yes, you don't have Brave Bird, which is the absolute nuke, which would be fantastic, but just giving you more consistency in your ability to put out damage there. I did put it in on Zapdos. Unfortunately, it only picks up 3, and it's still a pretty bad overall. So a lot of things that you will not see on this list, besides the Ultra League and Master League, is like these. I put in a couple of these Metal Sound users, but again, Metal Sound is getting buffed, like Delmise. Actually, so 2 things. Delmise and Berserker have Shadow Claw, so even with a better Metal Sound buff, and getting this move, it will not be better than Shadow Claw. So even these, great that they got the new moves, great that they buffed the moves, but they have Shadow Claw, and Shadow Claw is one of the best in the game, so you won't see that. The other analysis I have not run yet is the Wrap, because Wrap as you're going to see above here, Wrap now lowers guaranteed chance to decrease the opposing Pokemon's defense. So Wrap in itself is a bad move. So if you just put Wrap in, into it anyways, it won't show up well. But if you lower their defense, guaranteed when PvP Poke updates, then you may actually have a Pokemon that can do some fast move damage with like Lickitung and Lick, or Melodic with Dragon Tail. You know, maybe if you lower your opponent's defense and your fast move damage and you got some bulk, maybe now you have some kind of unique play. Or Shadow Claw, same thing, lower your opponent's defense and then Shadow Claw your way down. Could be interesting. We'll have to wait till PvP Poke updates for that. Lugia with Fly, I'm sure it's massive. I saw a couple content creators put Lugia in their thumbnail, so Fly is probably an increase there. And Metagross, same thing. Fury Cutter has not been buffed yet. So we're going to need PvP Poke to update the moves on all of these Pokemon before we do that analysis. So I think that analysis may be closer to like the start of the season is Tuesday. I'm pretty sure like on Monday I'll do like an updated rankings and stuff. We'll do this afternoon. Either this afternoon or tomorrow. I'm going to do Ultra League and Master League for one of these, and then we'll do the where the expected movements are for Pokemon being buffed, where they're going to go up in the rankings versus some going down. But I think closer to when the stats are updated and then all these new moves are in and the rankings are updated, we'll do a rankings analysis to see where we guessed was correct and incorrect. But yeah, so some of these need to be updated. Bullet Punch, Metal Sound. But again, like you can Bullet Punch going to 6 to 8. Scizor, Shadow Scizor is going to be way better. Now, is it going to be like a top 50 meta Pokemon, or is it still going to be 100? That's to be determined. But to make Bullet Punch a Sucker Punch clone, like Shadow Scizor is going to be so hard hitting with that. I think out of all the buffs, that's the one I'm looking forward to. And then Fairy Cutter and Bug Bite, just getting more bugs into the rankings, I think is going to be good. But in terms of the moves that Pokemon got here, you know, I think to sum up what I just kind of said here, I think Skeldurge with Hex is going to be how you want to play it. I still think Incinerate Torch Song has a lot of play, but if you want to go double nukes and play it in different shield scenarios, that's one way to do it. You know, Nitqueen Poison Sting is kind of be like Skeldurge and Nitqueen both getting fast charging moves are both ones that are just like, okay, I can see how you can play this differently. I can see how it could work, but I'm not sold on it like I am sold on something like Palmot. Like I'm sold on Palmot with Thundershock and Double Nuke because that is a legit way that you can play it. I really like Flying Galarian Moltres. I think it gives it better coverage overall by adding a quicker, still hard hitting, but quicker flying move. And then again, most of the real changes are going to be when these moves are buffed. So we'll take a look at those. We'll pump out another video for Ultra League and Master League. Ultra League and Master League are going to be the ones who are going to be affected, are going to be like your like Ultra League Tentacruel, Ultra League Skeldurge. Yes, Nala, someone said you typed it in wrong. I did. Shadow Claw makes a significant difference in the Master Leagues. Goldango, Power Gem makes a difference. So we will look at these Pokemon in the Ultra League Master League video, and that will be coming out either today or tomorrow. So that is it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.